So thanks for joining us, everyone, for our third episode of Passion for Success by Sarah's Platinum to help empower women through knowledge. And today's topic is persistence. And, when I was thinking about all these different topics, the first person to come to mind was Becky Sauerbrunn. So thanks for joining us today, Becky. We had the amazing opportunity to start playing together in 2008. That was your first cap, and then all the way to 2013. And I always admired your patience and your persistence. You're one of the smartest players that I've ever played with. Your ability to read the game, to intercept passes, and come up with big time tackles. And so for that, we wanted to learn a little bit more about you today. Obviously, all your hard work is definitely showing in the fact that you are a two-time World Cup champion. How cool is that? And, obviously you have a silver as well, just racking up all the medals. Let's throw in a gold medal in 2012. And then, obviously you're playing the NWSL, played at UVA, playing for the Portland Thorns. So I know that your persistence probably started when you were pretty young. And you grew up with two brothers. So what was it like growing up with them?
So well, first off, thank you for that intro. That was lovely. My brothers, Grant and Adam, they're like 7 years and 4 years older than me. So I was very much like the baby girl of the family. And that's a pretty big age difference. And so I just wanted to do whatever they were doing. And obviously I was very young for a lot of it and I wasn't allowed to. But the few times that I actually got to like participate in whatever they were doing, whether it was like roller hockey or they were doing karate or anything, like I just had to be a part of it. And probably to my detriment, because I have a lot of bad things would happen to me. I have a lot of stitches on my face from things that like happened playing with my brothers, but just learning like how to basically survive hanging out with my brothers. Obviously they're bigger, they were stronger. So for me, like I had to be a little bit smarter. And so I had to really learn like, how do I hang out with these guys without getting hurt every single time? And so that was kind of my first introductory moment to like, okay, if I'm outclassed by someone's physicality, like how do I neutralize that? And so it became almost like a strategy game for me. Like, how do I do this? What do I need to make sure that I'm ready and prepared for? What can I see in advance? And so it's awesome growing up with them. I think I give a lot of credit to them for like building up my mental toughness as well as my physical toughness.
I had a brother that was 18 months younger than me. We would have backyard battles every single day. So I just said, I'm tough because of him. So
sure.
How did your brothers impact your athletic career?
I mean, I would say like what I just told you with the physical and the mental, but I would also say that I didn't realize it at the time, but they were actually very supportive of me throughout my career. And we've never been the most demonstrative family. But I've realized in my older age that my brothers care immensely for me and are very proud of me. And I think learning that as I've gotten older just kind of has given me such a bolster. Like I think having a support system and a strong support system throughout any career is instrumental to your success, because you always need to have that foundation, and they're part of that foundation for me.
Becky, you're so smooth on the ball. So what do you attribute your technical ability to?
Thank you. I would contribute that to hours just in my backyard, and obviously sometimes my brothers wouldn't let me play with them. So it was just me and the ball and any sort of obstacle I could throw out on the ground. So I was dribbling through like lawn chairs or around trees, or just finding different ways to play with the ball and just get comfortable with it. And I think I'm also really fortunate that I grew up and played for a club team in St. Louis that really prized keeping the ball on the ground. And so much of our sessions, ball work, passing patterns, things like that. And so JB Marine, I think, was really instrumental in me and kind of getting that feel for the ball.
Oh yeah, I remember JB Marine. Being from Cincinnati, we had to go up against guys a lot, and I always was so impressed with the technical ability of every single one of the players that came out of not only St. Louis but of that group of players. You think about Lori Kolupny and yourself. I mean, they really do a really nice job. So you ended up playing at UVA, and then your sophomore year, you ended up taking that year off to go play with was it the U19 national team?
Mm-hmm.
So playing in a World Cup, and then, you know, after that you had 3 more years of college. I don't think most people realize what a big ask that is of college players, to be able to juggle not only playing in college, but also playing with the youth national team and then juggling school. So just talk about kind of how you were able to juggle all those things at the same time.
Yeah, I would say it was really difficult. And luckily that first year that I had at UVA, I was just a student athlete at UVA. I wasn't playing too much with the youth national teams. They kind of let the players that were playing on the U19 team kind of get a feel for college.
Mm-hmm.
So luckily that first year I learned a lot, because you're right, it's not easy being a student athlete. And just playing collegiate sports and doing academics, like that in itself is a full-time job. And so, yeah, you add in then all these obligations with your youth national team, and it's tough, and you have to use the resources available to you. And so for me, like I was uncomfortable with it, and you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, but like asking for help, and whether that were professors or the student resources, asking for help with certain assignments and things like that. And you just have to learn. And I had a mantra in college, and it was like, this just has to get done. So I need to find a way to get it done. And obviously I would try to do it to the best of my ability, but so much of college and balancing academics and sports is like, you have to show up every day. You have to show up at practice. You have to show up at your classes, and you have to do the work. And like, that was just what I had to sacrifice, you know, some of my social life, but you also need to find times to have fun and kind of refresh too. So it's really such a balancing act, and you just kind of learn as you go, and it gets easier and easier. But there are definitely times where I'd be driving back on the bus from a night game on a Thursday night, and I'd have an exam, and I'm studying on the bus at 2 a.m., like trying to just cram knowledge in, and you have to do it.
I didn't start playing with the youth team till I was under 21, so I was a little bit older. And I know that you started from a pretty young age and were consistently in those camps. Was that a good thing for you to be able to be in those camps and kind of see what it took? Did it drive you more, or was it more challenging to kind of reach the top?
I think that's a great question, because I very much feel like I am a baby of the national team program, because I did start when I was 14 at one of their ID camps, and then played with the 16s, 17s, 19s, you know, like all the way up to the senior team. And so I think from a young age, I was made aware of what it took to be in the national program. And I think the fact that all the youth teams were always showing us the senior national team, and like, this is the player that you should be watching, and this is the success that you should be striving for. And I think having that pathway made available to me, I think really helped me and made me aspire to reach those heights that maybe if I hadn't been part of that youth program, I wouldn't have felt available to me. But I mean, I think it depends on the player, because my path to the senior national team was not smooth. You know, I had my ups and downs, where some of my teammates kind of just was a constant trajectory up onto the senior national team. So everyone's path is always going to be different regardless.
Right. But your persistence paid off, so it's okay. So 2008, you ended up getting your very first call up with the full national team under Pia. What was that first camp like for you?
Oh man, well, let me tell you about when I first found out I got invited in. So I think I just finished one of my finals that year, and eligibility was done. So I was kind of like, what am I going to do with the rest of my career? Like, I really don't know what to do. And I was sitting in my apartment, and my boyfriend Zola, he was there with me. And I got this email from this lady called Cheryl. And I'm like, who is this person? And it was it was an invitation to the January camp. And I mean, Zola and I were just celebrating, because he knows like how much soccer means to me, and just to have that opportunity to even be invited into camp. So we were just like flying around the room, celebrating, like so excited. And then like preparing for that camp, I was like, I am so nervous. But I promised myself going into that first camp that I was just going to learn as much as I could learn. Like, I really had no expectations. I don't think anyone had any expectations for me. It was just like, hey, this college player did well, let's give her a chance. And so I went into that camp actually feeling like pretty free. I mean, I wanted to show well, but I also knew that like, probably I wasn't going to make the roster for that tournament, the Four Nations tournament that was attached to that training camp. And somehow I did. And there were a couple injuries that made it available for me to make that roster. But then I obviously got to go to the Four Nations tournament and get my first caps.
What is something that you're working on right now to still kind of improve your game?
A lot of things. I think to be on the senior national team, I think you have to have one thing that really makes you special. And I think you can never lose sight of what makes you special, but you also need to fill in all those other aspects of your game. And so, Mitzi, you know better than I that Pia loved the long ball. So for those 2 years that I was not with the senior national team, like I was hitting a lot of long balls and just trying to get more and more comfortable and adding that tool to my toolkit. And so that's something that I'm still always working on, because I think for me, I have that close game down. Like I can find my midfielders, I can find my defenders, but to be able to open the game up more and to make more available to me, hitting that long ball consistently on both feet, like I think that's opened a lot for my game. And so even though I don't do it as much as others, like I still want to be able to have that. And so I still very much focus on different types of long balls, different textures, am I, clipping it underneath? Am I really driving it? What kind of spin am I putting on it? So there's just so many ways that you can hit a long ball. So always trying to master it, and it's still not even close, but that's okay.
2008, then you take a little hiatus, right? And you're playing with the youth national team, you're getting some experience, and then you finally get called back in 2010. And as we know, Pia did not like to change up her starting lineup very often. So she was very consistent with who was playing. So at that point, you were the third center back, right? When you were in that position where you weren't getting any looks, right? And you weren't getting an opportunity to play. And I know at times it had to be frustrating. So what was kind of your mindset to be able to get through that moment when Pia's not giving you any looks?
Yeah, it was frustrating. And to me, it was, I have to make a decision. Am I going to let the frustration win over, or am I going to have, more positive feelings? And so it was, what could I control? And so every single day I made sure that I showed up, I was focused, I had a good attitude, and I was going to work and show everyone, including Pia, that should Rachel or Christy, the two starting center backs, should they ever falter or, didn't want them ever to get injured, but if anyone ever got injured or a red card, that I was going to be ready and I was going to make the most of that opportunity. And so that was my mindset. Like, obviously very frustrated. There were times where sure I would cry in the bathroom in our hotel, make sure no one saw it. But I just made sure my mantra was like, be ready, because opportunities in soccer always arise. And it's the people that take those chances and make the most out of them that really kind of start soaring.
Well, you got this great opportunity in 2011 during the World Cup to get that start against France, and you played awesome. But of course, Pia is going to go back to Old Faithful, right? And puts Rachel back in that next game. So, what is your thinking that helped you kind of to get through that at that moment?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. We kind of knew she was always going to revert back to that. So I had that already in my mind that was a possibility. And so after the World Cup, going into the Olympics, I was going to give it like a real try to break into that starting lineup. And obviously it still didn't happen. But I was getting to the point where I was feeling very good about how I was playing and how I was training. And when I was getting minutes, I felt really positive about that. And so I knew that if it were going to be Pia, if it was going to be a different coach, like someone was going to appreciate what I was giving on the field every single day. And then when Pia decided to leave and Tom Sermani came in, like that was just a fresh start, and everyone kind of started from zero and was evaluated at the same level. And he appreciated what I brought. And so he started starting me. And so it took a long time. And I think Pia always appreciated what I brought. But it was just not in our plans, and that's out of my control. And so as much as it sucks, you just kind of have to find the good and just make sure you're ready.
I'm sure that maybe a lot of people that didn't see you play back then even realize that you went through those struggles. So players right now that feel like they're giving it their all and they're out there and they're showing and they're still not getting a sniff, what's your advice to them?
I would say you just have to keep going, and you never know who's watching. That's like the wild thing about soccer. There are just eyes everywhere. And for me, like I think about certain games playing in the WPS or the NWSL, and just making sure that I was having as complete a game as possible. And then finding out afterwards, like, hey, the national team coach was watching that game and they noticed you. Like, you just never know. And so showing up every single day and bringing it every single day, like, good things will happen. There will be an opportunity for you. You just have to trust that it'll happen.
Well, there was a change of guard twice, and you got your opportunity and you've never looked back. And so what's it like for you when you get this opportunity in 2015 and you're playing in the World Cup and you come up in huge moments? What does that feel like for you to be able to do that for your team?
I mean, it feels so amazing. And a part of me going into 2015 still wasn't sure where I was at internationally compared to other teams, to other attacking players. Like, would I be a liability on the field? Would I hold my own? And so a lot of how I was motivating myself was like, you just do this for the team. Like, you have to give everything for the team so that you are not the reason this team is not successful. And so for me to come up big, I was really relieved. But I was also really, really proud of myself for showing up in moments that were really scary, like going out on that field with, 30,000 people watching you in the stands and millions at home. Like, it's scary. And I think it takes a lot of bravery to show up every single game and face that, and have to do that again and again and again, and through your mistakes, and through your successes, but to keep showing up every single time. Like, that's something I'm really proud of.
Winning's really special, but what it kind of mean for you personally to be able to contribute in such a big role in that win in 2015?
I think, you and I were both kind of in a similar boat in 2011 where I thought, trained really hard. We were making the starters as good as they could possibly be by putting that pressure on them. And I felt that we were good teammates, sitting on the sideline and cheering our team on. But I think there is a difference when you're, physically contributing to a team's success. And for me to be able to prove that to myself, and to the coach and to my teammates, that like, I can be really helpful to this group. I would just say, really proud. And you think about all those moments that led to 2015. And you just have to appreciate all the ups and downs and all the moments in the hotel bathrooms where, you're just like, I'm never going to get a chance. Like, this was my chance. Like, you have to make the most of it.
I know that you really looked up to Carla Overbeck as the captain of the U.S. Women's National Team, especially in 1999, the way that she led them through that victory. How does it feel for you to realize that you are a two-time World Cup champion? You have one silver, you have one gold, and there's still more to come.
Honestly, it's wild. It's so wild every time I think about that. And when people kind of say all those tournaments that I got to play in, and luckily the successes that the team has had. And to me, like, all I can ever say is like, it's just icing on a cake I never thought I was going to have. And the wonder of being on this team and winning those things, like, that never goes away. So there are times where, like, I'll just be sitting and I'll just get caught in a moment and just be like, I can't believe any of this is happening. And so I hope that never goes away. I mean, it certainly hasn't in, how many years I've been on this team, but it's just crazy to me. It's all icing.
Becky, what do you attribute your drive to?
I contribute my drive to, unfortunately, I would say, this feeling that I'm never where I want to be. I'm never as good as I want to be. I'm not where I want to be now. And I touch moments of it. And I just want more. I just want that feeling more and more and more. So I think that drive of not being complacent and not resting on my laurels and always like, I'm not good enough. I need to show these people that I'm good enough. I think that really keeps me driven and on fire and just trying to get better every single day.
So I know that you're extremely hard on yourself. And I think that, there's a lot of good that comes out of that. I think that's why you're so persistent. That's why you're so driven. And that's why you've had so much success. Has that changed at all the way that you talk to yourself? Or has it always been the same? Or are you trying to be a little bit more positive? Is there anything that you've changed over the years, or is it pretty much the same?
No, it's gotten way better. I would say when I was younger, it was actually more crippling my confidence. And I think as I've gotten older, I've given myself a little bit more grace, especially when it comes to making mistakes. Like before, it would just haunt me until the next time I got to play. And sometimes it still does, but I've gotten a lot better to let things just kind of slide off my back a little bit more. And I kind of changed my perspective around making mistakes. And okay, I can learn from that mistake. Like, what did I do wrong? What should I have done? And then it's so much easier for me now to like, here's the mistake, I'm crumpling it up and I'm like throwing it away. Like, I don't want to dwell on it anymore. And so I feel like it has made my mental health a lot better playing soccer. And also just my confidence, I feel like, is a little bit more stable than it was when I was younger.
Beck, how did you develop your leadership style and how has it kind of evolved over time?
I would say my leadership from, 16, 17s with the national team, with my club teams and such, has always been through example and through my professionalism. And I think as I've gotten older, that wasn't enough. And I've had coaches and teammates ask more from me, whether it comes from being more of a vocal leader, or even more of like, not a disciplinarian, but really like calling people out on their bull. So that's something that doesn't come very comfortable to me, but it's something that I've started to add to my leadership style, and I've gotten more comfortable with it as I've gotten older, because I think I've gotten more comfortable with myself. But I also think that I've gone through a lot. I've had a lot of experiences throughout my career, and it would be a disservice to my teammates if I didn't share my scars. And so that's really helped me kind of open up and be more comfortable too, is that it really would be a disservice to everybody if I just stayed in my little comfort bubble.
I know you're a huge student of the game and constantly watching international games. So at the national team level, how much of practice is focused kind of on learning and how much is focused on repetitions?
I would say when you get to that international level, so much of that is watching film, and it's understanding tactics, and it's being able to make in-game decision making and not waiting until halftime for your coaches to kind of solve things for you, because by then it could be too late. And so much of what we do now is X's and O's, film, showing the other team, showing us how do we change different position making to draw players out in certain ways. And so really it's learning the game and learning and adjusting in the fly, which is really difficult because you've got all these players on the field thinking different things. And so how do you get everyone on the same page, doing the right thing? That's probably the most difficult thing, and we spend the most time on it. But I would also say that like the mental aspect of the game, the physical aspects, the technique, like so important. But as the game has evolved since I've been playing it, I would say that teams have gotten so much smarter. And so if you can't be as smart, no amount of technique, no amount of running is ever going to help neutralize that. And so you have to be a student of the game, and you have to learn and adapt because the game keeps adapting.
I feel like since you've been playing with the national team, you've had 4 coaches. So how do you adjust to the different coaching styles and team styles?
I mean, sometimes there's a learning curve. Sometimes it's really seamless. Other times it's really not, and you have your struggles. And some coaches view players in certain ways, and they have a narrative about certain players that it takes you a while to kind of break free of, to change their mind. And so you just try to be as open-minded as possible. You try to be coachable, but you also can't lose sight of the player and the person that you are. You can't change who you are to please the coach. So I think being authentic is also really important, because you can't hide who you are. And if you're pretending to be a player or a person that you're not, you're going to get found out. So I think staying authentic is really important too.
I love that answer. And it kind of goes with the question that I'm about to ask you, because I know that you looked up to Carla over Beck. And then in the youth national teams, they had you watch whoever was playing your position, right? So you might have, at that time, who were those players that you were trying to emulate?
I mean, Carla was a big one. You've got Fawcett, Margraf. So you have, Chris Rampone. So definitely these legendary center backs that I got to watch. And I was really lucky in 1999. I went to Chicago and watched the US team play. And that's when seeing Carla play in person, it was almost like her leadership was like tangible. Like you could just see it on the field, and just the way that she was organizing and communicating, and like people were just doing it. And it just seemed so easy. And you could tell that she commanded so much respect, that it was hard not to see that and just be like, I need to know what that feels like. I really want to like aspire and emulate that person.
What's your ultimate goal right now?
I mean, my ultimate goal right now, I would say is to win the Olympics. Should we have it, fingers crossed. No team has ever done the World Cup and the Olympics back to back like that. And so I think it'd be really great for this team to kind of break that. And so I would say it would be my ultimate goal, is to be on that team, and to be on that team that wins.
And my last question for you is, what are you really passionate about right now?
Outside of soccer?
Outside of soccer.
So much. I mean, it's no secret that we're fighting a pretty public fight for equal pay. And so I'm part of that kind of committee that's really involved with that lawsuit. I'm really involved with our Players Association and the things that we're trying to do there, which goes beyond equal pay. We're trying to do a lot, and we have, high hopes for our Players Association and the impact that we can have on the soccer world, but also for women. And so I would say that's something. And then just, you see all the racial injustice happening in the world right now, and trying to be an ally and to educate myself and to learn and to use my platform in whatever way I can to further that message and to help make change. So I would say those are things that I'm really passionate about.
Well, you are a true inspiration, Becky, and it's been so fun to play with you and to watch you continue to grow as a player. And we're all rooting you on. We hope that the NWSL, you get an opportunity to play with the Portland Thorns and be in that atmosphere, and that you win that gold medal. So we'll be rooting you on. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Mitzi.
I was trying to see if there's any more questions. Someone did ask, how has your time been with Portland so far?
It's been great. I mean, obviously weird, terrible circumstances with COVID. The fact that we got to phase into like individual training at the stadium, and then into small groups, and then into team.